use, even in low aerobic output. You probably still see that, Ryan, that
Oh yeah.
even that your athletes come in and they have such a great cardiac output, but they're still like, you look at them, you should be like, oh, they should be in zone 2, but they're in like zone 4. You know, they're already utilizing so much help to get you in there because they don't have an ability to create that ability of relaxation. And I think relaxation, like we're going to talk about, is different than just saying, hey, I'm chilled out on the beach. Like those are two different ways to create a relaxation or a braking force.
Yeah, under the assumed force, and does the body feel threatened by it? And does it have to overreact by making the muscles panic, which then you have to drag through with extra muscle force? So it's a feedback. And that's the kind of the problem here that we're trying to get to today, is this acknowledgement that when the body has to use these adverse tensions to support the instability, it forces more of a glycolytic expression, which is that sugar burning system. And we're overreacting now with power that can create accessory patterns of movement and sometimes lead to injury or overuse. So when we realize that the body has to overreact because of that, can that have an impact on our metabolism and the health of our connective tissues then? Is that kind of what we're trying to get through here?
For sure. I think anytime I see, and Greg, you probably speak on this too, is if somebody is in a highly sympathetic state and the ability, I'm looking at this again, probably similar to Greg from a clinical side. If somebody, most of the time I see people in pain.
Yeah.
Ideally, we get them out of pain and then I can continue to see in them a little bit later on. But if they're in a highly pain-based state and their inability to reduce, any type of threat state, they're going to immediately be in a sympathetic response, which is going to be glycolytic in nature. You're not going to have that ability to create good aerobic responses, which is why we see time and time again that aerobic activity is so good for pain reduction at times. But even then, like you said, if they're in a threat-based response and their inability to create relaxation or tension reduction, they're immediately going to get into a state that is inefficient. They're going to burn sugars. They're going to get lactic pretty quick. And I think that's where we start to see these people coming in that they want to get back to doing a CrossFit type model, but their body isn't ready to handle the demands of production of force or nutritionally.
So you have to slow down before you can go fast. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a great way to put it. I think if you don't have your foundation, it's always been said you're built on a house of sand. And I think that house of sand falls apart pretty quickly when it's really great what we're seeing current day fitness, where people are joining tribes and doing activities. But the argument is that we're putting people into scenarios where they're not ready to produce the outputs that they see that brings them to that event or activity. So we're seeing really
training Joe Schmoes like pros. Is that?
Yeah, I think we see. I think it's the battle that we've had for all time, and I know Greg's seen it, is that education always is slow to the output of what everybody wants to do, because there's always something new, whether it's, I just saw it the other day. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the new push is, it's called the tactical games. I don't know if you guys have seen that at all, but it's a mix of fitness and then shooting. So now all of a sudden we have a mix of the whole premise, and is like we can have a SWAT officer and a general population individual, and how they can't handicap them is based on how they fitness test. But now all of a sudden we have people running in ruck packs and then having to do like row machines and then having to come out and shoot. And it looks awesome. Like I actually am super interested in it. And it looks really cool. But I think that's where we kind of see these evolutions of fitness trends, where then people start to have these really crazy injuries because now you have a shooting sport with fatigue, with power. They have to be able to produce force from a row machine. So I think that's where we're running into issues, to where if we're not building up that base level, and like you said, kind of having that really low level ability just to express an entirety of a movement option in a supine or a sideline position, and then we're like, go run a half mile with a 20-pound ruck pack and entirety of gear and weapons, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. In being here in this multidisciplinary environment, having a chance to work with the clinical side into function, into performance.
Yeah.
What I've learned over the years is that the qualitative standards don't stop at clinical.
No.
They carry through function and performance, but then sometimes they're dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're chasing the benefit, but not carrying the control. And the control is the qualitative standard through volume and load tolerances,
Mm-hmm.
not at the sacrifice of the quality.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes what we'll see is that individuals, they lose the quality of their position to try to pursue the power or the production of the force.
Mm-hmm.
But that can lead to overuse and strain and sprain.
Mm-hmm.
And especially under circumstances like too much heat or irregular eating conditions, which is going to bring us to this next topic here. But there's multiple factors, right? So what we're saying is that if they don't recoil well, which is absorbing force,
Mm-hmm.
the body might feel a state of threat, and then it produces force irregularly because your body's going to protect you from it, which is like a brake. So we know that. And then we also know that that can lead to overuse strategies from these big muscle systems that rely on different energy systems, including hydration and sodium potassium turnover,
Mm-hmm.
and then also more glucose. And if I'm in the summer and I'm skipping meals, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to be outside in the state of Minnesota. So sometimes I don't eat because I'm excited. I'm going to skip breakfast because I'm going to go on my run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that breakfast was pretty important for glucose balance and for the hydration factors my muscles need to optimize this force production. And sometimes when we skip those vital steps, can they catch up? And Greg, with your background in nutrition, is that something that people need to think about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it needs to be thought about all the time. But yes, I get what you're saying. They skip whatever it is, and then you're depleting yourself even more. The big thing I see is the hydration part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And then all of a sudden they're not feeling so well because they're not taking enough in. We always place the activity in front of what we need to do to support that because
Mm-hmm.
we want to get to it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I was reading with hydration levels, it has to do with blood plasma. And if you're not hydrated, it becomes thick and sticky. So essentially, yeah, does your heart, your heart works harder to pump the blood through it, and that creates more stress on your nervous system. There's more
Mm-hmm.
sympathetic stress because of that. And the idea is, does that provide adequate fuel delivery? And what carries it? Water is the universal
Mm-hmm.
conduit, right? So if it's not there, how are we going to get these sodium and potassium relationships back at that cell level? And the idea again is, do the muscles use electrical signaling in order to fire? And how does that have anything to do with sodium and potassium? So can we create a little bit of a background for people today on what that means? And ultimately, at the cell level, when we're trying to get the muscle to contract,
Mm-hmm.
it needs a certain polarity, right? The cell
Yep.
body. So it needs to be able to receive the action from the brain in order to contract. And does that have anything to do with the sodium potassium ratios?
Oh, for sure. I think, Greg, this might be a little on your end if you want to take that one, or do you want me to kind of bounce into it
No,
too?
go ahead. The sodium potassium pump type.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor that we see. I don't know if you see it a lot, Ryan, but I see it a ton. Especially, it's kind of changing now more in some of the athletics, but that push of electrolytic water is probably going to be a big one that we're going to have to look into, of balancing the entirety of the system. So for me, again, nutrition's not as huge on my end. I lean on some other aspects, but I've seen like the ability to balance out that sodium potassium to create muscular contraction is a big piece of the puzzle in this. I mean, if you're sensing the inability to create contraction, you either have to call more people to the party or turn up your volume, as my old exercise physiology professor used to say about how muscle contraction is going to occur in regards to motor unit recruitment. So I've always looked at it as that exact thing. You're trying to engage muscles that probably shouldn't have been if we're either under fueling through nutrition, or when we talk about that sodium and potassium levels, that ability to properly balance out that ratio to optimize muscle contraction. If your body's sensing that shortage, it's going to go nuts. I think that's why we see a lot of degradation of movement earlier. And then we see compensatory patterns that build upon it, because it's a side tangent, but I think we are rethinking just strict repetition ranges and looking more at quality of movement as the indicator of load. And I think nutrition has been a big key piece in understanding that, because if they're not fueled, I know Greg's probably seen it. I've seen my athletes like drop 3, 4, or 5 repetitions pretty quickly in terms of quality of movement when the heat is higher, their electrolyte balance is off. You see it either cramping, or you have to cut a weight that's like 70% of their 1 RM, 3 to 4 reps short of what they usually would do. So I'd say that sodium potassium combination, which we talk about, that's the stuff in exercise physiology that makes muscles go. If that's not in line, I've really seen degradation go really fast, and compensatory patterns that we've kind of worked through come back really quickly.
Yeah, I was reading that something as simple as half an hour to 45 minutes in a temperature of like 90 to 100 degrees, you could lose upwards of like a liter and a half
Yep.
in that short period of time. And that will reduce